Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're going to explore something absolutely fascinating that exists right inside every single one of us. We're going on a journey into the incredibly complex, microscopic factories that literally keep the biological world turning. So, get ready to shrink way, way down as we uncover the secrets of the cell, the fundamental unit of life. To kick things off, let's just jump right in with a pretty basic, but honestly mind-bending question. What is our body actually made of? And, not just humans. What makes up the invisible bacteria floating around in the air, the fungi growing on a piece of old bread, or those massive redwood trees towering in a forest? If we were to peel back the layers and zoom in closer and closer and closer, what's the core building block of it all? Well, the answer is cells. But get this, to give you an idea of the massive scale we're talking about, a typical human body is made up of approximately 37.8 trillion of them. Trillion, with a T. Right now, literally, as you're listening to this explainer, older cells in your body are dying off, and brand new ones are constantly being built to replace them. It is a non-stop, bustling metropolis of microscopic life inside you. Okay, so what exactly is a cell? By definition, it's the fundamental structural and functional unit of life capable of independent existence. Now, the really fascinating part about that definition is that independent existence bit. While you and I are these massive, complex cities made of trillions of cells, a simple bacteria can survive, thrive, and do its whole thing as just one single, perfectly functioning cell. It provides the whole shebang, both the structure and the machinery needed to live. Here's our quick roadmap for the explainer. We'll start with the cell as the basic unit of life, then look at how we even discovered them. We'll check out the outer walls of this factory, step into the CEO's office, the nucleus, and tour the internal machines. Finally, we'll compare plant and animal cells. Let's get moving. All right, part one, the basic unit of life. And honestly, there's a crazy variety of shapes here. When we talk about cells, we're talking about an incredible variety in shape and size. They aren't all just, identical microscopic spheres. They adapt to exactly what the body needs them to do. The smallest cell in the world is a type of bacteria known as PPLO, or mycoplasma, and it measures a tiny fraction of a micrometer. But then, look at the longest cell in the human body, the neuron, or nerve cell. Because its job is to rapidly shoot signals from your brain all the way down to your toes, a single neuron can be up to 1 meter long. And the largest single cell by volume? No way around it. That's the yolk of an ostrich egg. In the cellular world, form perfectly follows function. Moving on to section 2, the discovery of the cell, finding the invisible. For the longest time, humanity had literally no clue this microscopic universe even existed. It took some serious curiosity and inventive glassmaking to finally peer into it. The story starts in 1665 with a scientist named Robert Hooke. He built a primitive microscope, looked at a piece of cork, and saw these tiny compartments that reminded him of a honeycomb or small monastery rooms, which he decided to call cells. Now, Hooke was looking at dead plant cells. A bit later, Anton van Leeuwenhoek, who was actually a fabric merchant obsessed with making powerful lenses, looked at pond water and discovered the very first moving, living cells. Eventually, scientists Schleiden and Schwann put the pieces together and realized all plants and animals are entirely made of cells, which gave us the cell theory. And finally, in 1858, Rudolf Virchow added the final crucial puzzle piece, that all new cells arise strictly from pre-existing cells. Section 3. The outer walls. Think of these as the factory's security gates. Now that we know what they are and how we found them, let's zoom in on the boundaries of a single cell. Every factory needs outer security gates to protect the inside from the outside, right? The absolutely crucial point here is understanding the difference between the two main types of cellular walls. The plasma membrane or cell membrane is a living, highly selective VIP gate. It strictly controls what goes in and out, kind of like a bouncer at an exclusive club. On the flip side, the cell wall, which you'll only find in plants, fungi, and bacteria, is a dead, rigid outer layer. It acts like an extra outer guard. It provides amazing structural protection against harsh environments, but it's totally lazy when it comes to checking IDs. It's fully permeable, meaning it lets pretty much everything flow freely right through it. What's truly fascinating is how that highly selective plasma membrane is actually built. It isn't hard plastic like a Tupperware container. Scientists call it a fluid mosaic model. It's a soft, flexible layer made of a phospholipid bilayer. The outer heads of this layer absolutely love water, but the inner tails are completely terrified of water, so they hide right in the middle. And because this membrane is so picky about what gets in, it has massive protein tunnels embedded all throughout it. These proteins act as VIP entry gates, allowing essential things like water and specific ions to bypass the strict security and actually enter the cell. Okay, section 4, the nucleus, the absolute brain of the whole operation. So we're past security, and now we are walking straight into the CEO's office. I really like to think of the nucleus as the CEO's vault. It is so incredibly important that it's protected by a double membrane safe, complete with tiny pores that act as communication channels. Inside this vault, the absolute most precious blueprints of the factory are kept safe, your genetic material. Deep inside, you'll also find a dense little structure called the nucleolus, which is essentially a mini factory, whose whole job is building ribosomes. So how is all that genetic material actually organized in there? Well, normally it just floats around inside the nucleus as these loose, tangled threads called chromatin. But when the cell decides it's time to reproduce and divide, those loose threads tightly coil and condense into the classic shapes of chromosomes. These chromosomes are packed with DNA and specific genes, which carry literally all the instructions for your traits, from the exact color of your eyes to how tall you're going to grow. It's the ultimate instruction manual transferred directly from parents to offspring. Section 5. The machine is inside the cell. Let's step out onto the factory floor. Leaving the CEO's office, we step out into the jelly-like fluid of the cell, known as the cytoplasm. This is the factory floor, bustling with specialized machines called organelles that do all the heavy lifting. First up is a massive folded network connected right to the nucleus, the endoplasmic reticulum, or ER for short. There are two types. The rough ER is studded with tiny dots called ribosomes, giving it a bumpy texture. Because ribosomes make proteins, the rough ER's whole job is synthesizing proteins. The smooth ER, on the other hand, has a smooth surface with 0 ribosomes. Its job, manufacturing lipids, which are basically fat molecules, to help build more cell membrane. All right, let's do a rapid-fire tour of 3 more crucial machines. The Golgi apparatus takes those raw proteins and lipids from the ER, modifies them, packages them up, and ships them exactly where they need to go. It's literally the cell's post office. Then we have ribosomes, those tiny membraneless protein factories we keep mentioning. Finally, the lysosomes. Now these are intense. They're often called suicide bags because they are filled with incredibly powerful digestive enzymes. If a bacteria invades or if the cell itself gets old and damaged, the lysosome bursts open, dissolving the thread or even destroying the entire cell just to keep the rest of your body healthy. And of course, you absolutely cannot talk about a factory without talking about the generators. The mitochondria is universally known as the powerhouse of the cell. It features an inner membrane heavily folded into structures called cristae, which massively increases its surface area. Here, glucose and oxygen are converted into ATP, which is the pure energy currency of the cell. And here is just a wild fact. The mitochondria is such a VIP organelle that it actually contains its very own DNA and its own ribosomes, completely separate from the cell's nucleus. How crazy is that? So, the crucial point here is that if we look specifically at plant cells, they have specialized machines that animal cells absolutely do not have, called plastids. Chromoplasts are packed with pigments and are responsible for the vibrant red, orange, and yellow colors you see in flowers and fruits. Leucoplasts are the storage warehouses, hoarding things like starch and oils. And the most famous of the bunch? Chloroplasts. These contain the green pigment chlorophyll and are responsible for trapping solar energy to perform photosynthesis, effectively pulling food straight out of sunlight. Which brings us to section 6, plant versus animal cells. Let's compare these two massive franchises. Now that we've toured the factory, let's look at how the two biggest franchises, plant cells and animal cells, stack up against each other. Let's lock in these key differences. Plant cells rock a rigid outer cell wall for extra protection. Animal cells do not. Plant cells feature massive prominent vacuoles designed to store large amounts of water and sap, whereas animal cells only have small temporary ones. Animal cells have a special structure called a centrosome that throws out spindle fibers to help the cell divide. Plant cells manage division just fine without them. And, as we just learned, plant cells contain plastids for photosynthesis and coloring, which are entirely absent in animal cells. And that is our cellular tour. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought to really ponder today. You are essentially a walking, talking universe. How do 37.8 trillion of these independent, microscopic factories perfectly communicate, divide labor, and collaborate to keep you breathing, thinking, and alive every single second of the day? I mean, the sheer scale and perfection of cellular biology is truly breathtaking. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep wondering, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.